Before you all go to lunch break, please stay here. This will be a fun presentation. I know I always tell it about taxes. They are actually not fun, I know that. But this way I'm trying not to speak too much on taxes, and especially not on the details of taxation, but more to speak more on the rise of NFTs, what happened, why the market went down. And at the end of the presentation, I will also speak some little bullets on taxation. Before I start, let me introduce myself. I'm Florian Zawodsky, a tax advisor based in Berlin with EY. So you might have heard Jan at the beginning of the day. He's in a different branch of EY. Also, the EY law guys are here. They're also in a different branch. I'm specifically here for tax purposes. So if you encounter any tax problems within anything crypto-related, please speak to me. We have a crypto task force within EY, so we definitely find a guy who's the right fit for you. The rise of the NFT area, is it about to continue, and what about taxation is today's topic. I've split my presentation in two parts. So for the first 10 to 15 minutes, we will really closely focus on NFTs, get a little recap on what they are, what we see out there, especially in the German landscape. And then at the end, I will focus a little bit on taxes, but I don't want to be really specific because I know, even though here we are in a field where I would say this is kind of a law audience, when I speak to people and I tell them, hey, I do taxes, they're like, oh yeah, interesting. And they think probably about, yeah, death and taxes. This is what's going to catch you, all of you, at the end of the day. But as soon as I really start and get going with constitutional issues, I see in the eyes of people that they're thinking, it's going to be the burger or the pizza tonight. They're not really interested, and I get that. Like for tax audience, it's interesting, but for normal audience, I just want you to urge you also to think about your tax problems, and then in a bilateral conversation, your tax advisor can specifically help you in your specific case. So now let's get going. What are NFTs again? We in our tax world, we like to speak about tokens. I know that the rest of the crypto world likes to speak a little bit more on crypto assets. We are also tokens, you can mainly use it as a synonym, but crypto assets incorporate all kinds of crypto assets, mainly cryptocurrencies, but also tokens as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. We don't have a uniform definition of what NFTs are, but what do you do nowadays if you don't have a clue on how to define stuff? You ask ChatGPT. That is what I did, and we have several definitions, several internal revenue services have defined NFTs. Also, the OECD has defined crypto assets, and then from this definition, you can somehow boil that down also to NFTs. So we're not completely lost, but this was what ChatGPT gave me back, and I'm pretty happy with that. So NFTs are a unique digital asset that represent ownership or proof of authenticity of a specific item or piece of content using blockchain technology. Sounds pretty good. As a little reminder, I'm going to stick with my definition, which is fancy vouchers. So you can talk a lot on NFTs, but at the end of the day, you have to see what they are in the real world, what they can be. And then later on, obviously, me being a tax guy, I'm going to move on to the tax consequences of what if you somehow deal with NFTs. So let's take a look, especially as I said, at the German landscape, what NFTs are. Usually they can be redeemed or give access to something, but that can be a variety of purposes. And every now and then they have a nice and appealing appearance, but at the end of the day, they are most likely close to something as a collectible, or as a voucher, or as an access pass to something. So I brought some examples, what we see out there in the market. Obviously the Bored Apes, which I think they are one of the best symbols of how the NFT market evolved. They were sold for $200, I think 2 years ago or so, and they moved up to several $1 million, and people bought these NFTs, and they didn't really know what they gave them, because if you go with my definition, fancy vouchers, they can be redeemed or give access to something. Yuga Labs never really pointed out what these Bored Apes actually, to what they give access to, or what you can do with them. You can see them as a collectible, as a kind of a digital art you're simply collecting. You can see yourself as belonging to a club. At the NFT NYC, they had parties. They had the Ape Fest, so that was an entry ticket to a party. You could also redeem that somehow for merchandise. So it had a variety of purposes, but usually that is not stated at the beginning, and also over time, the access or the redemption possibilities change. And that is also something which is, I would say, really new in the NFT and in the crypto world, especially for these, I would say, consumer-facing stuff, that you could have done that without NFTs or without a blockchain. You could have issued these fancy vouchers if you just printed them out. But what now we have is that issuers can easily give new use cases or give new possibilities to use these NFTs behind these vouchers, and then it can be used for stuff which wasn't aware, where the people who were buying them weren't aware in the first place when they bought it. Another NFT which we recently saw in the German market is the Rittersport NFT. Here it is basically a raffle ticket. Rittersport, I think they gave out some like 250 or so rather a low-scale project, but you could buy them, and then you were basically grouped into, I think, 3 groups, and then you could basically get access to different kinds of products. So that basically more or less works as a lottery or a raffle ticket. This is my ticket for the NFT Paris. So basically that NFT was just an access pass, but also they did some fancy airdrop stuff the other week. So I don't really know what they're planning, but this also gives you, as I said, access in the future, which I wasn't aware of in the first place. So that is something which I think we see is new in the market, which hasn't been done before we had these blockchain opportunities. This is an ape. I basically forgot his name, but it's a species who's about to be extinct. But the WWF, which are not the wrestling guys, the other guys, they are giving out these NFTs. And if you buy these NFTs, then you basically donate the amount you pay for these NFTs in order to save this specific species. So there's some kind of a donation use case, also quite interesting from a tax perspective. The Metabrew certificate, Metabrew is a brewery. They are now based in Nyla, that is somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Bavaria. They issued NFTs last year, and with your NFT, you basically bought the share of their company. It is not technically and legally a share, but it's supposed to feel like a share, and you also get dividends each quarter. You receive, I think it's 240 beer cans per year, so each quarter you receive 60 cans of their beer, and you can also have a say in their Discord or engage otherwise. So you basically feel a little closer to the company. You could obviously do this also with other brands which are out there and somewhere right in a forum. I want to back alcohol-free and taste like whatnot, but here you're closer, and also they have special perks, I'd say. So if I get someone who has a bar also to sell that beer, and I give him my code, and this guy who then has to buy that beer in order to sell it through the smart contract, I as an owner immediately get a tiny share of that. I think it's 10 or 20%. Last case, also, I think that should be known here in these halls, Handelsblatt, I think Germany's primary financial paper. They also gave out NFTs. So every fortnight you can buy the Friday cover, and then you basically belong to a club. They also have their Handelsblatt club, but this is a special club. And this NFT then basically also works as a raffle ticket. You can get once per year, they invite to their Korrespondentenabend, which I can only recommend, which was really interesting. And also they basically raffle out tickets to their conferences, which are usually high priced. So that as a little overview of what we have in the market nowadays. Also, yeah, I've just forgot that. Pepsi, also as a big major brand internationally, gave out these microphones. And why did I put this microphone in here? Because that was basically the best example of we don't know what we are having here because they just gave out these microphones and no one still knows, or if someone knows, please enlighten me. You still don't know what's behind these microphones, and still people spend fortunes on that. Now, a little bit on why NFTs have taken off, and I'm making that a little ridiculous here, but this is my view, and feel free to challenge me. And as I said at the beginning, I feel a little bit as a misfit here as a tax person, even though tax is somewhere under finance, but I'm not really dealing with markets and stuff like that. But it's a little bit of my view of why NFTs have taken off. I'll start with a problem. And basically, I'd say anyone has problems in the world, and the problems can be diverse. It could be real big problems like war, the COVID crisis, or you could simply be bored out. But I imagine there could be problems and people who are somehow striving for more. And what symbolizes a problem? I found this guy. I thought that would fit. Darth Vader is a problem, right? He occurred in episode 3. At the end, and he is supposed to be here to symbolize a problem. What do we need if we have a problem? If we think about episode 4, how is episode 4 in Star Wars called? Anyone? A New Hope. We need hope. Exactly. Exactly. So, just imagine you have a problem, you're bored out, you don't know how to invest, and obviously we're going into the financial idea here with NFTs. You have a problem, you need hope. And if I buy stuff which I know which I'm buying, then I can make up my mind and I can make a decision which is profound, and I can invest in that company, say, well, it's reasonable, they have a good business plan, or whatnot. Or you can think, yeah, well, the market will like that, I actually don't like that product, but the market will buy it, I'll invest here. But if you don't really know what is sold, then the pages are somehow twisted. So I would say that people just understood what was out there, especially after the COVID crisis, when we had stimulus checks in the US, that people needed hope, and then they might have come with the idea that, well, if I had invested in Apple in 1980, that would have yielded me now almost 400 euros. $1, 400 euros. So that could also happen with any NFT I could buy. And this is what we saw somehow in 2021. We now all know that it went down, but still, this is at least my explanation of what happened. What I imagine, which is usually taught here in these halls, is real research on markets. I'm just here giving my perspectives, but I'm thinking that here we have different markets that we usually see in real traditional finance, because it's a private market. We don't have institutional investors. We know we have these tokenization projects where NFTs can partly be bought and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's more private individuals all over the world buying Bored Apes, buying CryptoPunks, buying whatnot. And this brings me to the question, who actually drives this market, or basically who drove this market right when it had taken off? And then I come to this guy. And who's that? No one? Michael Wendler, exactly. So I basically asked my team, who's the biggest, you know what, you can think of, and then they gave me this guy. But he's quite famous. Actually, probably he's hopefully not that famous here, but he's been on any trash TV series in Germany. And if we move outside of our finance bubble here, of the university bubble and stuff, then we might see that this guy basically is an example of people who could be driving that market. Just, I'm opening a bandwidth here because that could be one side, and this guy here could be on the other side. And who's that? He should be known here. Yeah? Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, behavioral economics. He studied how to make decisions, and buying NFTs is also making a decision. And I would assume that he and Michael Wendler are two edges of a bandwidth, and I just wanted to open the scope of who's basically really the market buying NFTs. And I would say right at the beginning, There were more like Michael Wendlers deciding to buy NFTs. Now people are understanding more. There's less hope because people understand more what's out there in the market. And then there's way less money in there. So we had the fall. The bubble bursted. And as my time is running down, I still somehow want to talk about taxes somehow. That it was simply a reality check. The excessive market prices, they were not created by issuers. They didn't issue Bored Apes for millions. It was the market who created these prices. And basically, these market prices came down. And obviously, from an issuer perspective, if I collect money for an NFT, I never want to give out stuff which has more value than what I just collected. Maybe if you think of a lottery thing, one might be subsidizing the thing I give to someone else. That might work. But in total, if I just simply collect money as a business, I won't give out more for what I received in money. Now coming to taxation, this will be also my last slide. Just a few bullets. We had on Valentine's Day this year, one court proceedings came to an end. The Federal Fiscal Court decided that cryptocurrencies, not necessarily NFTs, are assets. There was a big discussion before, but now we know it and we have to live by it, that cryptocurrencies are assets. And most likely, we live in a code law world here in Germany, not in the case law, so you can't just say, well, this case here also applies to me, but still this right is not necessarily wrong in the other case. So it is most likely that NFTs are assets too. So if you somehow deal with NFTs, they are tax consequences. Simple message. Generally, there are a lot of VAT problems because VAT, like starting with the good point, VAT is able to manage some kind of anonymity. So if I go to the bakery store and buy a brezel, he also doesn't know that much about me. But we have presumptions for that, where the place of supplies and stuff like that. That works out. But here, there's another thing coming in place. This is especially that we don't know what we're actually selling and that what we are selling can change over time. That is something which the VAT world doesn't really know how to deal with. We are writing articles about that. We are challenging the tax authorities about it. These are really tough questions which I would love to elaborate on more, but I don't want to bore you out. So if you have these problems, feel free to approach us because these are the real interesting questions. Second last bullet, specific VAT problems, because platforms are so cool. Platforms is for me like the symbol of Web 2. No one wants to really do his own business. Everybody wants to be a platform. So yeah, and if I think about it, well, yeah, the platforms have succeeded quite well in the last decade. So why don't you? Good idea to become the Web 3 platform. But there are also specific VAT problems where you as a platform, where you think from a legal perspective, hey, there's A and B trading, doing services between each other, and I'm just above as the platform. I don't have to deal with any VAT issues. Just trust me, it's not the case. At least, especially when we hear in this electronically supplied services idea, it is not necessarily the case that you don't have to deal with any VAT issues. Now, I'm almost over time, but just one last bullet, and this is also happening in 2026. Then everyone who basically is connected to crypto assets and basically just also selling NFTs, would be one thing, and also for these NFTs receiving cryptocurrency has to report on the people who are basically somehow are basically selling these crypto assets to their financial authorities. So basically, all crypto asset service providers have to collect information of individuals or businesses and have to report that to the financial authorities. That's about it. I hope to give you some little laughter.